Jumping right into this bad boy. Boom! The 3-city road trip. Or the curse of the 3-city road trip. I should have made that the title card. The 3-city road trip. If you are not familiar, Major League Baseball, almost every single baseball team has at least one road trip where they go city to another city to another city. So it is a 9-game or more road trip that is usually 10 days. So there's usually an off day in there, okay? So the reason that these exist is because a lot of times you travels really far. So like for the Mariners, for example, they had 2 this last year. They have to fly all the way to the East Coast. They have to play every team. So if they have to go to the East Coast, they try to bundle those East Coast teams together and get 3 of them out of the way so you don't have to go back again. So if you are going 3 hours in different time zone, they want to try to get you 3 cities. Now, it's a little bit easier for the Central. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But the point of today is I want to talk about not only what 3-city road trips are, but how big of a factor they play in your team's success. Like when they are, how far you have to go, who you're playing. All of these things are interesting, and that I felt as a player, there was a lot of crappy situations where you're like, how are we supposed to win, man? We're exhausted. Like, this is crazy. But there are certain rules that also get negotiated in the CBA, and a lot of times don't get talked about a lot because both sides agree that this is a problem. And also, balancing this is really hard to do. So I also want to put that disclaimer out here either. Also, this is not an indictment of anybody who works on this. I know this is like the unsolvable problem. That's why realignment's being talked about so much, is because they want to help soften this. But there are some really interesting trends on who had 3-city road trips, where they were, when they were in the season, and then how that team did. It's stark. So I went and did a bunch of research, bunch of digging. Been working on this for a couple of years, I think it's wildly interesting, and I hope you think it's interesting too. Maybe there's some things in here that you did not know about that you'll find enlightening. Okay, so let me just give you a quick background on how scheduling is done, because I don't think anyone knows this, because I'll be honest, this has changed recently. I didn't know it changed. It used to be a couple, a man and his wife, a man and woman, who would just by hand figure out the schedule. Now, I don't know if it lined up perfectly with when the scheduling changed to interleague play wasn't like a special thing anymore. You just played everybody. Around COVID, I think that might have changed, but it was a long, arduous process for them, and obviously there can be bias there, but they did it for a really long time. Now it's done by something called Sports Scheduling Group, LLC. Something tells me that another company owns that, which uses a complex computer algorithms. Oh my God, more algorithms. It's always an algorithm. Our entire lives are controlled by algorithms that tries to balance the league-wide and team-specific requirements. Okay. Now, everything that I just said with balancing, we got to make sure that teams aren't being adversely affected more than others with this situation. I guess an algorithm is the best way to do it. So, okay, fine. You got me. Key factors include balancing the travel, how far it is, which teams play multi-game series, which is why teams play multi-game series, scheduling 162 games per season, incorporating balanced schedule with set number of interdivision, interleague, and interdivision, intra-league, and interleague games. So there's a bunch of requirements you have to have in your schedule, who you play, how many games, whatever. It needs to be as equal for tiebreakers and stuff too. So those parameters are done best by a computer program. I totally get it. Okay. The process also though is factored in venue availability, TV schedules, and special events. So that's a nice way of putting it. It also tries to balance everything we just mentioned with the monetary advantage of having games played at certain times for viewership and such, right? So 2 big teams playing each other in the middle of a thing, you want to line that up to be maybe a Sunday night game, so it'd be a national game, and then for example, you want the Yankees and the Red Sox playing on the weekend all the time. You know what I mean? Because that's the highest viewership, and you want the most people to be able to watch it. So that stuff's also factored in, also makes sense, okay? So throughout a season, there are 2,430 total games played, okay? All 30 teams have to travel at some point. If you are the Tampa Bay Rays, you're traveling a lot, which sucks, which is, I think, a big reason why they weren't as good this year is because they were constantly on the road, which is very hard to do, okay? Each schedule is 162 games played in 183 days. That is 21 off days. That includes the All-Star break. So if you make the All-Star team, take 2 of those away because you got to go for the All-Star game and you're there to the day before too. So those 2 days are work days. So you're only getting 19 off days in a week in a year. Which, in my opinion, is still not enough. If we added 10 off days, take 10 games off, made a 152-game season, I think the injury problems would be drastically cut, but that's just me, okay? And a lot of these off days are used to actually fly. Now, most teams try to fly right after the game so you get your off day wherever you are, but sometimes you can't do that. So sometimes that day off, you're on a plane, which isn't restful, no matter who. Oh, I sleep great on planes. No, you don't. Shut up. Stop lying. Stop lying, stupid. So 3 city trips end up being really important because of all of those things, okay? So couple rules. 1, you can't play 20 straight games. You have to have an off day. So you can't play more than 20. So every 21 days, you have to have at least 1 off day. Thank you. We get 1 off day every 3 weeks. Nice. At least there's a rule that I'll give the credit where it's due. And then if a team is going from the West Coast to the East Coast, you have to have an off day because the losing 3 hours is integral for your rest. You need that extra 3 hours, so they built in an off day. Going the other way, from East Coast to West Coast, you do not need an off day because you're getting 3 hours back. Don't factor in the fact that if 10 o'clock is now 1 o'clock, or 10 p.m. Eastern time is 7, so you're starting the game at 10 to yourself. And so when we went from, for example, in 2021, we had a series where we played the Giants and then the Dodgers at home, and then we flew across the country, we played the Giants and then the Dodgers back to back. And they flew with us, but both us and the Dodgers had games against San Francisco, or had games on the West Coast the day after we played each other in New York, and both of us got waxed that next day because we were gassed. And it just, for us, it felt like it was, I came in like the 9th inning after a long kind of a high-scoring game. It felt like it was 1 a.m. to me. And that's, you usually need a buffer day. But again, it's better one way or the other. We don't have that many to work with. But that did happen, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay? So, I went into this project with 3 theories in mind, and I hope you find these interesting. Please, God, think they're interesting. The 3 theories are: the 3-city trip adversely affects the visiting team a lot. So, like, the visiting team loses much more than the home team when it's a 3-city series. Now, that doesn't quite bear out. It's of course, the visiting team has a slight disadvantage. That disadvantage goes way up when it's a 3-city, especially in the 3rd leg. I went and looked at this, and I can prove this one way or the other. Second one is going west to east is the hardest. Like I mentioned, you have to have that off day. East to west is second hardest, and then the central has it the easiest because they're just in the middle. They never have to go 3-hour difference. It's always 1 or 2. And a lot of their 3-city trips are like in the Midwest. So like it's not, their travel's easier just general in the central because the cities are closer together. There's more of them. Then the East is pretty good too until they have to go to the West, but the Central's equidistant, right? So it's not too bad. And then doing your 3, if you have 1 or you have 2, you want to do them earlier in the year over later in the year. And I wanted to see if the numbers bear out that. So we're going to go test these 3 theories and see what I found and if they are true or not. So let's check in on theory number 1. They, meaning 3-city trips, adversely affect the visiting team more than the home team. Let's check in on the data here because this is wildly interesting. Okay, so 3-city trips are definitely hard and have a large impact on momentum and record. Okay, so this season there were 7 teams that did not have one. Okay, so this is one thing. I think every team should have one. Somehow 7 teams didn't have a 3-city trip. They only had 2-city trips. Yes, there were some like 8-day trips in there, but like they didn't have to go to 3 different cities at all. Those teams were the Brewers, the Tigers, the White Sox, the Orioles, the Phillies, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays. You may see a theme there. Of those 7 teams, 5 of them made the playoffs. That's 5 of 12. And 3 of them won their divisions. So that seems significant to me. The only two that didn't do either one were the Orioles and the White Sox. And the Orioles could have very easily done it. White Sox had no chance. But they did have a better year. Maybe that factored in. So of the 7 teams that did not have a 3-city trip, 5 of them made the playoffs and 3 won their division. That's nuts. So take that with a grain of salt, okay? So I'm thinking, yes, maybe there is the opposite of this. Maybe it's beneficial to not have a 3-city trip is what maybe this should say. I don't think I worded this very well, but I think that bears that out pretty well. Just that on top of it. Like if you don't have to go do it at all, like because so often it's like a 2 and 7, then you're in a better shot. And also there's lasting implications. You get really tired. If you have to go, like a lot of them go right into the All-Star break where you fly from there and then you go home. So you haven't been in your home city for 2 weeks and then it gets all discombobulated. This happens quite a bit. I think this is probably pretty true, but we'll do some conclusions here in a second.
This episode of FT is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. Give me an example in Pennsylvania, Kratz.
Right down the street from my house, the Tap House. Not only is it an awesome place to hang out, get your beers, get your drinks, whatever it is, but you know what? The company has the simplicity of Square, and they give back to the community with 10% of all the proceeds that they bring in going back to community projects.
I love it. Sports and sports bars are so good at bringing together local communities, and you can actually take this ad as an excuse to go support your local spot and have yourself a day or a weekend in the neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. These businesses are what make the neighborhood the neighborhood. So visit square.com/go/foul to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Again, that's square.com/go/foul to learn more.
Second one, let's talk about east to west the hardest, east to west next, and the central has it the easiest. Are these 3 things true? So I went and pulled up all the stats. Can you read this? I have all the stats from how these teams did from going from east to west. There were 6 different times, with the Mariners doing it 2 times in a row. At the end of August and going into September, they went from the West Coast to the East Coast, back home, and then the next road trip was West Coast to East Coast again for 3 trips, cities again. They did it twice in August and September, and they still won their division, which is crazy to think about. But the Padres did it, the Dodgers did it, the Giants did it, the Mariners did it, the Athletics and the Rockies. And the Mariners were the only team that had to do it twice, okay? All of those games came out to a 26-38 record, a .406 winning percentage for the away team going west to east. In the first half, they were 11-16. In the second half, they were 15-22, mostly because of the Mariners. Okay? So, like I mentioned, the Rockies are in this. The Rockies went 3-6 on theirs, okay? So what I did was, if you take the Rockies out, because their record was so bad, let's take the Rockies record out and then their contribution, which is still about 406 winning percentage. The winning percentage of those teams is .530. So it's 120 points lower for those same teams on their 3-city trips, which is a lot. Even when you leave the Rockies in with their horrible, horrible record, the winning percentage is .486, still a difference of 80 points. And the fun fact there is that the Rockies by themselves bring that down 0.44 points, like the overall winning percentage of all those teams, which is silly. That's how bad they were. So it's an 80-point swing for the same teams, overall records versus just their record on 3-city road trips. I'd say that is definitely hardest, or that is definitely very hard. East to west, there was only 4. Tampa, Washington, New York, and Boston. Those 4 teams went on East Coast to West Coast trips. I don't know why there was only 4, because that's the easiest one, but here we are. There were 7 going the other way and 4 going this way. I don't understand why we're using the rule with the off-day rule in the middle. I don't know. I don't know why we're doing that. So the stats there. First half, 13-14. Second half, 6-6. So it's 19-20. 19 wins, 20 losses overall, .487 winning percentage. Overall record amongst those teams, 503. Not a huge difference, only 16 points difference. So basically it evened out going east to west to about the same outcomes. I know this is like small sample size, big sample size, but I went and looked at some other years and got the general gist too, and it's pretty close. Like there is a discrepancy. It is harder. And that's what you feel as a player. So is the Central actually the easiest? Let's look. Is the Central the easiest? There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there were 7 total trips. Now these weren't east to west or west to east because it's Central. So it's just anywhere. It could be Central, it could be go east, whatever. They ended up going 11 and 16 in the first half, 16 and 20, 27 and 36 for a 429 winning percentage. And if you added all the teams together, it was a 497. So actually that's almost a 70-point swing. So the Central had it tough too. But again, this could be just playing poorly. I mean, the Pirates went 1 and 8. One of those got swept the last 8 straight games and lost the last 8 games of the trip. That could hurt it a lot. Sometimes the team's just playing poorly and that'll bring it way down. But they were worse on the road. So if you are on the road on a 3-city road trip, no matter when it is, you are probably going to play below what your season is. Probably. Vast majority of the time you do. So I would say west to east is the hardest. East to west isn't necessarily the hardest. I think this might be the easiest. The Central might have it the hardest because they just don't have as much money to spend on their teams. That might be it. So lot to unpack there. If you need to go back and watch it, do it again, okay? So the last one I wanted to check theory is going on the trip earlier in the season is better than going on the trip later. There are 3-city trips where teams stay on their coast as well. So I added every 3-city trip. This isn't traveling all the way across. This is like when East Coast stayed on the East Coast, when West Coast stayed on the West Coast. Every single 3-city trip for every team all year. Okay, here's how the records played out. Okay, overall, in 3-city trips, the away team was 123 and 155, good for a 422 winning percentage. If you add everyone's record, obviously it's 500 because 15 teams have to win, 15 have to lose. All the games together are going to be 500 every single time. That's how stats work. So that is well below that average, right? Agree. Cool. Okay, so I think it's harder to be the away team. I think that locks that in. But is it harder to do it in the first half or the second half? In the first half, the away team was 62 and 60. In the second half, the away team was 61 and 95. So in the first half, 508 winning percentage. Second half, 391 winning percentage. That's pretty stark, and that's a lot of games. So what I'm going to say right now is absolutely, it is harder to do in the second half when you are tired to go on 3-city trips and have success than it is at the beginning of the season. You want to go at the beginning. When these things are timed are wildly important. Wildly important. So earlier is definitely better than late. That is a 117-point swing in winning percentage, which is astronomical. So, of these theories, how many of them were right? First one, yes. Second one, kind of, with the Central probably being or having a little bit of struggles. I don't think anything was proven one way or the other, but I do think going west to east is the hardest. I bet you that would bear out every year if we went and did it for every year. And then early in the year is definitely better than going later. I think that's foregone conclusion. I think that's guaranteed. I think we proved that. And that is what the 3-city trip is, and that's what it means. So if I were you, I would go look at your team schedule right now and say, okay, when does our team go on a 3-city trip? Because I don't want this to suck. Because it can affect. If you go, like if you are on a run, but for some reason, all of September, you are on a 3-city trip or into another one, or you have 2 really hard road trips, that could be the difference between a playoff run or not. Who has the worst, not even strength of schedule, not even opponents. Who has the worst travel in September? That could be huge for whether or not your team ends up making it or not. And the 3-city trip is the hardest version of that. So I watched the Mariners do it, just getting boat raced day in and day out. The Mariners were 5-13 in those two trips. Then they came home and they won like every game for the rest of the season. That's how they ended up doing what they were doing. But like without that, like they could have very easily just fallen apart if they didn't come home and win every game like that. And that was necessary because of how hard it is to go in and stay fresh in hotel beds every single day for a month. It's very hard to do. No complaints, just that's a disadvantage. Every player would agree with that, but also everyone has to do it at some point. So you kind of pray to the scheduling gods that you get the favorable schedule, and yeah, how many long trips does your team go on, and can they pull off a good run when they do it? Because it might not matter at all. You might want to check. Let me know in the comments if your team's going to do well or not this year, or if they're going to win their series, or if you're one of those lucky ones that didn't have one coming up. Because evidently that is an option too.